to ask, but I
just totally
steampunkrs.com, I think.
You're talking about this. Basically, this is copper leafing for anyone interested in steampunk. And it sounds like Doug and I are both interested in steampunk. So this is a 3D printed piece. So you just hollow ABS, and then took this super thin sheet of copper metal, and it's so thick and thin that if you touch it the wrong way, it just tears. So there's use static electricity and a brush to lift it up, and then you've already coated the plastic with this glue, and then you get you hold the brush holding the metal with static electricity close, and then it just sucks it down on the glue, and then you tap it down, and then pretty soon it looks like a piece of copper, solid piece of copper.
Can you mention a source or something for that?
Yeah, that's what I have to dig out. And I owe you that actually. I'm going to do that sooner than later. So
I'm not in a hurry. I just kind of reminded you.
Okay.
Wouldn't any Hobby Lobby or Michaels have that gold leaf stuff, or the copper leaf stuff, or
they probably have it, but what I had mentioned was that like if you go look online, you can find copper, brass, nickel, silver, gold. I mean, you can find this super thin sheet in all kinds of different metals and get really neat effects.
Yeah, I didn't know if I needed to go to Amazon or down to the Hobby Lobby thing or whatever.
I believe Hobby Lobby has some.
Yeah,
but
I
not
got a word copper leafing. That's probably what I need to look for.
Yeah, copper leafing or metal leafing.
Metal leafing, I think, would be what you want to.
I'll hand the baton to Harold, and while he's talking, I'll go dig out my little kit and hold it up.
okay.
Thanks.
Well, I was going to just to tag on to that. Have any of you cats done any hydro dipping?
No, not me.
Now, I don't know if I did what was called hydro dipping. I did put paint on the top of water and dip stuff in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's kind of that's the DIY and how that kind of works. Effectively, they have sheets and things that have really cool designs. If you're so into that, and I was just wondering if anybody's done it and how they did it and how big a mess did it make.
Well, we were calling it paper marbling when I did it, and you have this flat rectangular pan that's not very deep. You fill it full of water, and then you take an eyedropper and drop little drops of paint into it. The paint spreads across the top of it, and then you can swirl it around with a stick to make designs, and then you lay paper or whatever contact item you want on top of it, and it just sticks to it like glue, and you let it dry. It makes some interesting designs.
Okay, so
Can you stick it on other materials, metal or?
Whatever the paint would stick to. I was doing paper when I did it, but my wife went to a store just the other day, and they were doing it to like sneakers and all kinds of.
Yeah. I want to do it to some plastic parts. I want to do plastic parts, and heck, some of these I've seen literally some of these tanks big enough to do car parts, if not whole cars. In this and that, because you get the fluid designs and that kind of stuff that you just can't get any other way. So anyway, this is what that blinky thing looks like, kind of up close. This on the outside is, I don't know. This is a flattened out D20. If you guys know how to play games, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
20-sided die. And what happened was, well, I asked my streamer subscribers, hey, I got about 100 grams of filament left here. What should I print? And somebody threw this thing up, and maybe just this triangle part here for the D20, and I got it, and I kind of liked it, and I liked it enough where I went and bought some more of the same filament and went and printed all the pieces. And then I said, that'd be cool printed. And I said, look at that size. So this thing here is just a flat panel plasma screen. They were real popular back in the 2000s. You can get them now, but this right now would cost you about this plasma thing. I got on like AliExpress, and it's like, I don't know, $100 for the actual size of this plasma, but it costs you like $150 or something to ship it because it's pretty heavy and that kind of stuff. So what you're seeing is, like those plasma balls that you touch and they kind of stuck on to your line. This is just flattened out. If you ever seen Star Trek Voyager and gone through the board where she's it's having the nines in her coven and they're recharging, this is the same light that they have over the top of her head. You used to buy them at Spencer's for, I say, a dime or a dozen. That's just where I got this one, like in '97 or something. And I got to looking at the size of this thing and went, oh, that's about the same size. Let me go see if I found that. So I went and dug it out, plugged it in, it still worked, and then I cleaned it all off and kind of stuck everything on there. And it is pretty cool. And I've got it just random blinking now, but you can turn a little volume knob in the back to do sound activated and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I've taken it to a couple of conventions that Improving's done so far, and I get lots of people going, "Hey, are you giving that away? Where can I sign up for that? And can I get? What are you going to do with it?" And I go, "You'll have to talk to me." And so I went and investigated. That's how I know how much shipping would cost and stuff. Was if I was going to have, if you're going to commission one of these things, I'm happy to find this, but the easy ones to get a hold to are the 6-inch dials. The 6-inch versions of this, which means all these parts will have to be the way they are. And I'll have to go redesign this this piece of plastic here because I got it off Thingiverse. So they didn't, it's not, it doesn't have the licensing for me to resell it. So I'll have to at least contact that person. And now that I've done it, I think that what even would be cooler is that I shave. See how these are dark spots here? I'm thinking what I should do probably, which would be really cooler, if I use a translucent filament and then painted just these tops here and let that translucent, so you see the arcs kind of going through the translucent thing. I think it'd be even cooler. So if you're a game top person, yeah, it's kind of cool what's going on there.
So are the arcs caused by the gaps in that pattern that it's just close enough to it?
Yeah. No, whether the arc, if I put my finger down in here, you see where it's coming in there. It's just you can see where it attracts to it.
Yep.
And it would normally just randomly do the arc on back of the glass. The plastic here is not really affecting it any at all, near as I can tell. But like you said, it's like those plasma balls you see that you can get lots of places, except that they just flattened it out. And it made it work. And you can get them now. Like I say, you can get them now on Amazon. If you go look for plasma disc light, most of them you're going to find a couple of them. Most of them, what you're going to find them, they're going to be about six, maybe 8 inches in diameter. And the color they get out of them, they'll have some sticky thing on the front that's got like a blue section, a yellow section, a red section, in which it looks really cheap. And I don't like those. So, yeah. So that's how that came apart. The only other thing that the only other thing that I may have is this little fella right here. He's currently doesn't have a good load of software on him, but you may have been recognizing this because I've had it for a while now. It looks a bit different than you've seen it before, because I managed to find an RC capable battery that was good to do the job. The 9-volt batteries the guy spec'd on this thing was never going to make this work. And what else is happening is you may see something a little different here with the motor controller. I had one of these. That's an L293D motor controller, right? They've been around for, I don't know, somewhat 100 years or so, 100 million years, something. And this is what was on there, and this was never going to work either because these things are good to about a 0.5 amp per channel. These little motors here, they really want about 0.6, almost 0.7 amps to do you any good. So what I changed those to was this guy. I had to, how you buy like tens of things to get one. It's called an MX 1508. MX 1508. Now, DroneBot actually had this in one of his videos about motor controllers. So instead of doing what the 293D does, this is MOSFETs. so you have less heat, less voltage drop, all that kind of stuff. And this will do a continuous 1.2 amps per motor with a peak of like 2 or 2.5, something like that. The other thing on this dip over here, when I plugged it in and actually tried to do one motor, it worked fine. As soon as I plugged the second motor in, I was out. And you can hear this thing screaming. Literally, you can hear go, wee! Like, oh, that can't be good for anything, And this guy's handling it like a champ. And there's a Arduino library. You need to go. You can't really go and download it, but through the normal channels. But you'll have to go to GitHub, get a zip file, and install it that way. It's a zip install, not a library install. Not that big a deal, but it's one of these things you can't go point and click and get it. And it seems to work really, really well. I got the IMU doing what it's supposed to do, and now the reason it's not plugged in now is because I think I uploaded something. I got a divide by zero error or some other weird thing in there, and I got real tired last night, and I said just shut it down and let's go before the smoke starts coming out in weird ways. This is to the point where it almost stands by itself. I got to work on the P and the I and the D to make it work. And the thing is that once I get mine working here, since I've got plenty of extra little motors and things like that I'm going to package all of that stuff up into my Twitch channel. You got two kinds of things they can do. You got channel points you earn from watching, and you got bits, which are real dollars, or a bit is a penny. And so what I was going to do, I was going to offer the little kit. I'd print them up a bunch of these things and enough where I had all the parts, and tell them where to get the batteries and stuff from, and say, hey, for this number of bits, and I'm going to put them in a box, and they're going to cost this much shipping in the U.S. Send me that many bits, and I'll ship you one of these kits, and you can put it together yourself. I'll help you on the things and that kind of stuff.
Hey, Harold, what's the IC that it's based on? Is it that number that you said, or is it like a TB6612 or something?
No, I think it's MX1508. Here, let me see if I can look it up real fast. Here.
1508. Okay.
Yeah,
I could look it up. I'm just curious.
I know what I'm looking for, and you'll eventually find it, because I know your search foo is good there, Ray. But I can certainly help it do. Okay.
You all were mentioning before putting floating stuff on water and getting films and what have you. I remember way back last century doing the same sort of thing and getting film to make ultralight little airplanes.
Mm-hmm. So I just dropped a
okay, thanks.
A link in there to the exact dealy bopper.
Great, thank
you.
you.
The weird thing about this one versus the 298s and the 293s, it does not have an enable pin. Normally, all the libraries I was looking, you would set a high and a low on the A/B sides for the motor controllers, and then you'd PWM the enable pin to get your speed. On this guy's library, which it's the one that DroneBot picked out, so I'm using it. What he's doing is he's using PWM on both these pins to do stuff. I hadn't really looked at it, but that's how he does it. That's how he does the speed control on all those. And so I'm hoping to get a gold star here in short order with this thing standing on its own. But it's kind of a pain because I've got a long USB cable here for data. This thing doesn't really have any other way to give me data and tell me what's going on other than plugging in the thing. And when I plug in my cord to the data, it obviously affects the balance and how it's going to balance to the thing. So this is going to be a bit of a frustrating thing to get to where it needs to get.
You need a wireless link.
That is something I do, and we have talked about that on the stream about if I can get this thing to work, adding a Bluetooth to this should not be that hard of a thing to do. well, of course, it changes the balance a little bit, but then I've got a Bluetooth connection to a phone, and we can use the Adafruit application on the phone to drive the thing around and that kind of stuff without having a major controller on the thing. It's kind of a decent. They give you got a library to communicate over Bluetooth to the app for doing things. So it's pretty straightforward to set up and put together. That's about what I got.
Cool.
Looking progress.
That's a lot of progress.
The motors work really, really well. They're way stronger than I ever thought they were going to be, and strong enough that I'm letting this thing go, and my Twitch stream folks are like watching it do and flop everywhere, and like, yep, that's why they call this thing Twitch, and because it twitches and goes on the thing. Anyway, there you go. There's all that.
Cool. I'm gonna jump back in. So Doug D, this is what one of the packet of gold leafing looks like, and what it is a packet. And you can see just how totally thin it is. And it's got there's super thin tissue in between, but there's just nothing to it. It's just super thin. And it you just get so many sheets per deal. My cousin relative sent one like that for copper. He sent one of real gold. I mean, there's not much ounces to it, but then he sent Martha Stewart gilding glue and these brushes. So what you do is you use one brush to kind of put the glue down. While it's still kind of tacky, you get this, again, Martha Stewart crafts. So you get this one big, wide, fat one, and it's got enough static electricity to get anywhere near that metal, and the metal just sticks up to the brush. So you get the brush in the vicinity of the piece, and then the metal just kind of like wraps itself down to the piece. And then you just use the thick brush and use the end of the bristles to kind of like tamp it down. And then after that, the glue hardens, then you get some kind of, not microfiber, but little felt cloth or something. You just buff it down a little bit. And it's.
How many layers do you put on? Just one?
That was a single layer.
Oh,
cool.
That piece I showed. Yeah. So I was thinking that, I was really thinking that the DPRG needs some steampunk robots, so we need to see some copper leafing.
Well, I'm trying to decide how I'm going to use that. I'm going to have a wooden box. Me and Pat like wood.
Yeah.
But wood looks very periodish for the steampunk era. But they like copper and all that too. So I haven't done the final design of the outside of the robot. I'm still focused on the functionality parts. And I've ordered some pieces, and when they get here, I'm going to start putting things together.
The stuff is relatively, in terms of sourcing, it's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, I looked in Amazon. They have quite a few different things for like $10.
Yeah. I mean, this is I just searched for a copper leaf and all kinds of options. You can get 300 pieces of imitation gold, silver, and copper, or you can get solid, 23 karat gold, 10 sheets for $23.
Yeah.
Just search for gilding, and there's just all kinds of different supplies.
Yeah, I just need to get me some and practice on some garbage pieces.
Exactly.
Yeah, the real thing.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me wonder if the term chrome dome came from like a silver leaf accident where
it could be
chrome on the dome on the head. Yeah.
The foil got too close to the guy's head or something. Just stuck right on it or something.
Get it off.
I always thought it was from maybe if the no hair. So
yeah,
this would be a good example, wouldn't it? Okay,
it was a gold leafing accident mishap.
So I happen to be on a topic that we talked about earlier. I happen to be looking at the Mega 26 whatever, and it looks like it has 8 interrupt spots. So that's
6, I think.
I could be wrong.
External interrupts.
I meant to bring this up since you mentioned Mega again. The Giga just dropped, right?
Oh yeah.
Arduino Giga. It's got like 70 some odd IO pins and things and crazy. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Yeah, so I've got 4 of these motors, and I got to have enough interrupts to run everything. They're also going to have extra things just to interrupt on the motors. I haven't got to that part yet.
I think it's there
Checking out
somewhere.
and just use 2 motors. Have 2
Yeah, I
wheels.
don't know if you can see that or not, but on the official Arduino
Yeah,
cheat sheet there, it says there's 6 of them
that's
for the Mega.
pins. Let's see, interrupt list.
Yeah, 2 pins 2, 3, 21, 20, 19, and 18.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work out with 4 motors because you got to use 2 per motor, right?
You can actually connect, like you can look for a transition on one, connect that to the interrupt, and look at the other pin with just a normal digital pin.
Okay.
If you have too many.
Yeah, there's probably different examples for that out there.
So you look for you see a transition that gets you to jump to the interrupt service routine, and you look at the other pin, and if the state is high, you say increment. If the state is low, you decrement, and that gives you your direction. And it's it's very short, like 1C statement interrupt, which you don't want those to be big anyway, because
Right. Got to be fast and let other things happen. Seems like I saw somewhere on the DPRG site they had the PI something example that showed how to do all that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to that.
Probably.
It can't be too much longer. My motors are supposed to be here at the end of March, though. They're the slow piece. They've got the interrupt wires on them. It'll be exciting.
Hey Doug, Paradise, have you ever used Tinkercad?
I played around when it first came out. Yeah, I'm sure it's much more capable than it was back then.
It's free.
It was pretty, it's free, and it does get. I think it's really good for somebody who really is just being introduced to CAD. Okay. Again, it comes down to how you think. All right. In my case, when I start off with a design, I generally work in 2D, and I create where I want extrusions and everything. Then I switch to 3D and do all my extrusions all at once. But a lot of people like to think in terms of blocks and shapes, and they just put the shapes together.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably would find Tinkercad more intuitive than the way I approach things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it has its place. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm going to spend any time learning. If I were going to spend that time, I would probably do it in Fusion 360.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah, most of the things it's quick, it's easy. I'm familiar with it. It's and it's not like I'm doing complex contours of things. So
right. Yeah, and you'd be surprised. I've seen some really complex projects done in Tinkercad. So if a person's willing to learn how it really works, it can become quite good.
Yeah, I've seen like different gear generators for it.
Yeah.
And that's even things like worm and worm gear generators, which that's not trivial at all. So
no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I didn't. At the time that I was doing it, it didn't have any parametrics to it. So, but it sounds like if they're doing gear generators, they probably added some parametrics to it, so that you could just change stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You see, usually when I want to do gears, I actually use OpenSCAD, one of their gear generators.
Harold, I got a question for you. Did you look at the Toshiba TB6612 at all?
The answer to that is sort of, because it was on Drone's. I think that was on Drone's show. But really, what happened? I was just looking for something different than what I had, just because I thought it'd be a little more, something a little more capable. I happened to run across them, and I'm like, well, that's cheap enough. Let's order a handful and see what happens. Because I wasn't planning on using them at all, and because I thought this was going to work. It turns out it didn't work. So I didn't have to. Just dumb luck.
The thing I liked about the TB6612 is that it'll handle the higher voltage. You can see
13.5.
3-cell.
Yeah, that is one thing here. This MX 1508 only goes to about 10 volts before it really doesn't like you anymore.
Yeah, as I recall, the TB6612 can go up to almost 15 volts.
Yeah, I think if I hadn't just ran across when I was just my ADD was kicking in on it, I probably would not have gotten and done something more along what Drone had done. But there's a video out there. I don't have it handy at the moment. That he spends about an hour or so going through motor controllers. He does do the LP98N and a few other things, makes them run left and right, all that kind of stuff. And it's like all of his videos, they're really complete and really good. You need lots of a pot or two of coffee to actually watch them all, and straight up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is I've kind of settled on the Toshiba part because it does handle the 3-cell lipos.
Yeah, I think the peak current's probably about the same. I think
the peak current is 3 amps, and it's each channel is 1.2 amps or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a MOSFET type device.
Yeah. Very similar with the currents. I think this only goes to like 2, maybe 2.5. I don't really remember. I knew it was going to be way more than I was going to need, so that's where I came down on that. I'm in what is it? If you know very much about people, if you ever heard of the word DISC, DISC, as describing personality types, I'm high. I cheerlead. I want to know enough details until they don't matter, and then I throw them away, and we just go with what I got. As opposed to the C's, which a lot of you fine folks are, that you want to know every little nitty-gritty detail about everything you got in there because, well, that's kind of who you are. And that's okay. We need all types. Because I'll cheer anybody on, and somebody like yourself, Mr. Ackley, that gives me all the stats. We need those folks too. So,
well, I happened to stumble on the Toshiba part because I was looking for something that would run with the 3-cell LiPo, and I was just curious as to why you hadn't used that one, but that's fine.
It was dumb luck, and I found a library.
Hey, whatever works. Hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
I just want the hardware to work so I can get to the programming.
Yeah. I categorize there's only 2 kinds of problems. I think there's problems I want to solve and problems I have to solve, and this is one of those problems I have to solve to get to the problems I want to solve, and they put them in there, stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Polulu makes the carrier for the TB6612. I think SparkFun does too. I think there's probably several Chinese manufacturers that have done something with it. So
yeah, I got lucked out. It's got a single mounting hole on that carrier board for this MX 1508, and the little bitty breadboards that I got came along with the Micro Center have a hole on the end for mounting those things. And it just so happens I've got some standoffs for 2mm bowls and 2mm standoff, and the standoff just fits right in the hole. So I just bolted it up, went with it.
Serendipity there.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to peel off.
Way to go for it. Yeah.
All righty. Doug, we'll see you. If there's nothing else for tonight, shall we count this as a move to adjourn until Tuesday?
Sure.
Second, third, fourth. All right, guys. Good to see you. Have a good night.
Take
Night.
care.
Catch you all later.